This is Oakley. In the past, he has shown aggression to both people and dogs. Out on a walk, he shows hypervigilance. Fast to stand still is his visual vigilance, constant scanning of his surroundings. If allowed to do what he wants, he will pull you along trying to investigate every smell that he can. This constant checking suggests that he's worried about what is out there or what he might find meet on a walk. We've done some prior training with Oakley in an enclosed area with no distractions where he feels safe. This included a sit-stay and relaxed walking on a loose lead while making eye contact, building up to sitting just inside this gateway looking out. He now needs to learn how to transfer this knowledge into dealing with the apparently scary world outside. Desensitization is exposing an animal to something that causes fear, in sufficiently small doses so the animal does not experience fear. In Oakley's case, he's fearful of what he might see while out on a walk, so we're going to introduce him to seeing things outside gradually. We're going to do this partly by only taking him out at quiet times when there's unlikely to be much passing traffic, by using a wall and a fence to block out how much he can see, and by only staying out for a short time. I will then watch for the absence of signs of fear or anxiety in Oakley, which should indicate that he's not experiencing fear. Signs of anxiety in Oakley to look out for include the scanning or staring already mentioned, paw lifting, ears back, not being able to maintain a sit, and rushing forwards. I'm also going to be using counter conditioning, the reinforcing of an incompatible behaviour. So I'm using rewards to encourage calm, relaxed behaviour. Rewards for Oakley include praise, being allowed to move forward and explore, and treats. Oakley is exceedingly fond of treats, which in some sense makes him easy to train because he's very motivated, but also means that food can overshadow his fear, making it look like he's doing well when actually he's struggling, just unable to think about anything other than the food. So I'm using low-value treats, rewarding him frequently to prevent frustration developing, and looking out for when he gets quite snatchy as another sign as he's finding things a bit difficult. I start by opening the gate gradually, allowing him to see the world outside in stages. At this point, he becomes too aroused to maintain the sit, and I wait until he's more steady and able to organise himself again. Unfortunately, the camera person is a distraction, as you can see. I reward him at this point, not because he's relaxed, but because he's made a good decision. He's decided to come back to me rather than rush off towards the camera person. I'm aiming to reward him for being relaxed or becoming more relaxed and being able to focus on me rather than worry about what's out there. Once he's calmer and not flicking between me and the camera, i.e. he's able to concentrate and think and focus, that's when we move forward, increasing his view of the outside world. I'm using very few commands, partly because he's got enough to think about and doesn't need more information to process, but also because I want him to learn to think and manage himself. At this point I come back in because he's getting a bit snatchy. It's also worth giving him a bit of a break once he's had a chance to look around, to process what he's seen and learned before trying again. Here, I again reward him for making a good decision. A person appears in the distance and he stares, but he makes a decision to come back to me. However, he's got a bit snatchy again and is struggling to resist the temptation to stare, so he's still worrying about that person he's just seen, so we go back in for another break. When we come back out, he is still thinking a bit about that person he's just seen, but he's just giving it glances this time and isn't quite so snatchy, so I stay and see if he can work through it. While I want to avoid too much staring, I do also want him to be able to look at his surroundings, so I'm really quite pleased with his glance at the camera person. Yes, he's still aware of them and needs to check on them, but once he has checked, he can focus on me and turn his back on it, suggesting that this is a distraction he can cope with. At this point, I encourage him to do a bit of sniffing, partly because I don't want him solely dependent on treats and focusing on me. I want him to be able to do doggy things like investigate his surroundings as well. Also because he's been concentrating and trying, and I want to reward him by giving him a bit of a break to do the thing he really wants to do, checking things out. Again, I reward him for making the good decision of coming back to me voluntarily. We get a bit of a stare here, but he chooses relaxed sniffing in preference, and again he makes a good decision to come back to me. This is probably his first honest good look around, so I stop at this point while he's learnt something positive around his surroundings. He can look, find something there, nothing there to worry him, and do something pleasant. Ideally, overall I would have liked him a bit more relaxed. Apart from at the end, throughout he's been a little bit aroused and twitchy, probably with the conflict between wanting the treats but also wanting to rush around and check everything. So he's got the appearance of trying very hard to do the right thing while resisting temptations, which suggests that actually he's not totally relaxed. But he's done well for a first try, especially considering he had to deal with the camera person. So overall I am pleased with the first attempt.